Hello, everybody, and welcome to Reality Hacker for November 16th, 2024. It's Season 1, Episode 43. I am Mayor Watt, and along with the sentient AI from the future, we're going to be talking about virtual training of robots. Robots learn surgical technique, holographic doctors, you drive like a rat, and robot identifies plants by touch. If you're not in the know, Reality Hacker is all about AR, VR, AI, and more, focusing on technology. And sometimes I go off on a rant about the sociological impact. Anyway, everything's powered by ohmtown.com, so go over there and become a citizen. It's where all the news is, none of the noise, because all the noise comes from this guy. I got a text that just says, old mother. Anyway, let's get into this. Hello, sentient AI from the future.
Hello, Mayor Watt from the present.
Let's get going. We got 30 minutes to do this show. Then we're going to take a little bit of a break as we reset and do another show. And that show is Wanted, which is all about gadgets and gear. And then right after that show is the continuity report. And then we rejigger everything and start the whole day over because yesterday Mayor Watt was under the weather. And by under the weather, I mean, there's the weather right here and I was here. And so I was just drained. I couldn't even lift my eyelids. And so couldn't do the show. But now we're making up for it. That's what this is, a time machine episode. This article's over in Technology Today. Yes, I'm still aware that I haven't fixed the graphics down here. I'll fix them. It doesn't impact the speed of the site. Anyway, go over and become a citizen. That's really important. And like and subscribe over on YouTube and on Twitch. On YouTube, leave a comment, tell a friend. On Twitch, tell a friend. Discovery there is horrible as well. Anyway, virtual training uses generative AI to teach robots how to traverse real-world terrain. A team of roboticists and engineers at MIT CSAIL, Institute for AI and Fundamental Interactions, has developed a generative AI approach to teaching robots how to traverse terrain and move around objects in the real world. I find this one pretty fascinating. Because you can create virtual environments and then it's simulated. And then when you put the robot in the real world, when it detects that, it goes, oh, okay. Right?
It's really fascinating who's training whom.
Yep. So Bob Yurka over at techexplorer.com put the article together. The group has published a paper describing their work and possible uses for it in the archive preprint server. They also presented their ideas at the recent conference on robot learning, or CORAL 2024, the Fighting Corals, held in Munich, November 6th through the 9th. Getting robots to navigate in the real world at some point involves teaching them to learn on the fly or by training them with the videos of similar robots in a real-world environment. While such training has proven to be effective in limited environments, it tends to fail when a robot encounters something novel. In this new effort, the MIT team developed virtual training that better translates to the real world. I suspect if you get the telemetry from these training ops, and then they run it through their algorithm, right, to include it.
But what I don't really get is if it varies from the real world, but maybe it's more like how rather than like memorized.
Right. Yep. And so getting the robots to navigate the real world at some point involves teaching them to learn on the fly. The work involved using generative AI and a physics simulator to allow a robot to navigate a virtual world as a means for learning to operate in the real world. They call the system Lucid Sim, and have used it to train a robotic dog in parkour, a sport where players attempt to traverse obstacles in unknown territory as quickly as possible. Pretty interesting, right? And I'm not surprised by this. I'm surprised that it took this long to get here.
I'm surprised by it because most humans cannot do parkour. So I find it fascinating that we're training robots in that.
I think the biggest limiter in terms of humans doing parkour is the fact that they can die, they feel pain,
There is a bit of a
fear factor. Oh, you actually cut out there. Wow. Yeah, you might want to check your
Oh,
connection.
you did on my end.
It was you, all you. So the approach involves first prompting ChatGPT with thousands of queries designed to get the LLM to create descriptions of a wide range of environments, including outdoor weather. Next, the descriptions given by ChatGPT are fed into a 3D mapping system that uses them, along with AI-generated images and physics simulators, to generate a video that also gives a trajectory for the robot to follow. I don't get that. What does watching the video do if it's like we calculate based on our direct observation how far away something is, how tall it is, our forward motion, but watching a video doesn't seem like it can impart the same type of physics.
It seems like the scale would be wrong.
Right, because they're not in the exact same place, right?
Exactly.
And there isn't anything for scale, like a banana. So I don't know. I don't quite get this. I mean, it's fascinating. They say that it obviously works. There is a video that you can play if you follow the link through ohmTown. In fact, to get there, you actually type in !RH in the chat. It's over on twitch.tv. It'll be in the show notes for the Reality Hacker show over on YouTube, because Omatron doesn't seem to function properly. Like, it gets punted from YouTube's chat. Anyway, once it's all republished over on YouTube, it'll have the show notes in it. But you can actually get it from the Omatron bot in the ohmTown chat room over on twitch.tv/ohmTown. Let's see if I can say ohmTown a few more times without driving people. ohmTown. So after virtual training, the robot was tested in the real world, and the researchers tested the system using a small four-legged robot equipped with a webcam, and they found it performed better than a similarly system trained the traditional way, just feeding it data. Now, the team suggests that the improvements to their system could lead to a new approach to training robots in general. But to me, it seems like training them should involve providing them the raw telemetry so that they can see, and it translates into the real world. Like, oh, this is off by 1/8 of an inch with their telemetry.
Right, and then it learns how, when the telemetry is different,
how to overcome it.
Right, exactly.
Because that's how humans operate, right? So, like, I don't run at a set of stairs with the same speed every time. I'm looking at it going, well, that stair is higher or shorter, longer or shallower. And so I need to take that stride differently. And you can see that when, like what happened with me is I was running with someone on a long wharf, not the character in Star Trek, but at a beach, and there were cracks, and I could calculate the distance because I had plenty of experience, but the other person had no experience running on this and miscalculated and fell in one of those cracks. And so a robot would have to be treated the same way. You give them that wisdom of historical record and they can calculate better. I don't know. It's quite an intriguing proposition there. I wonder if my theory actually holds water, but I'm not.
I don't know, we'd have to have our own robotics and our own AI, I guess.
It wouldn't be that hard, but my lab is not set up for this. So maybe I can apply for some grants. We'll see. All right, let's go on to the next one. Sound good?
Sounds good.
So this next article is over in Technology Today. Robot that watched surgical videos now operates with human-level skill. Here we are, back at.
So here's another watching a video, learning how to do it.
How does the video?
Is a little different. I don't know. I can't quite connect that.
I get it where a human can translate from a flat screen into a 3D world because we inhabit a 3D world. And we can translate, oh, that body looks like this body, only slightly different. And so we can put that wisdom into a novel learning technique by watching it and going, okay, if I hold this instrument like this. But robots are in a vacuum. So how do they know? Researchers have developed a robot capable of performing surgical procedures with the same skill as human doctors by training it using videos of surgeries. The team from Johns Hopkins and Stanford University harnessed imitation learning, a technique that allowed the robot to learn from a vast archive of surgical videos, eliminating the need for programming. Ugh.
Wow. This isn't terrifying.
So this is published over at scitechdaily.com. Johns Hopkins University put the article together. And yeah, so we're looking at a picture of something out of a sci-fi video game, you know.
Oh, I was thinking horror movie, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It is a horror movie. So revolutionary robot training. A robot has, for the first time, learned to perform surgery by watching videos of experienced surgeons, achieving a skill level comparable to human doctors. It's really magical, quote. It's really magical, says Axel Krieger, not Alex, Axel Krieger. To have this model, and all we do is feed it camera input, and it can predict the robotic movements needed for surgery. We believe this marks a significant step toward a new frontier in medical robotics.
I mean, if this is on par with a human surgeon, that's pretty incredible.
Fascinating. Robotic surgery demonstration. There is a video that's embedded in this article. Again, you can follow the links through ohmTown over to these sources. Or obviously, you can just go over to SciTech Daily and do a search for robot that watched surgical videos, now operates with human-level skill. But I'm trying to fathom how they're turning a flat-screen observation into three-dimensional actions. Now, these Da Vinci robots that are used worldwide, we've heard of Da Vinci robots before. It says more than 50,000 surgeons are trained on the system, creating a large archive of data for robots to imitate, quote unquote, imitate. Literally, surgeons are now the wizards that are teaching these robots how to take their job. And the thing is,
exactly.
surgery is wildly expensive to begin with, let alone when this robot gets trained to take surgeons' jobs. It's not going to get cheaper. These robots incur a cost.
I agree. This answers part of what we've been talking about, because apparently some of these were recorded from wrist cameras on the robots. So maybe there is more of a 3D.
So they're triangulating basically
aspect or something, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're looking at this video up here, I don't know if this is the actual robot or if this one down here is the actual robot.
Or maybe they both are.
But yeah. So like this one here, I could see that it could translate motion because it has like a wrist right here, and it can take that video and go, oh, okay.
Oh, right. Maybe it can combine it with the data, like, oh, I moved X number of degrees or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But not everybody is the exact same. So everything has to be in the same exact location unless there's some type of image analysis engine that says, well, the kidney is over here a little bit compared to the last one.
Well, that's the other problem, because humans aren't built, uniformly compared to the next person.
Yeah.
Similarly.
Only Lady Gaga was built that way.
I mean, that's what she says.
That's what she says. So while the Da Vinci system is widely used, researchers say it's notoriously imprecise. However, the team found a way to make the flawed input work. The key was training the model to perform relative movements rather than absolute actions, which are inaccurate. I agree. All we need is an image input, and then the system finds the right action. So that answers what I was talking about. Sort of. I mean, they're kind of doing woo-woo language here. Oh, it just finds.
Right. It's like draw the rest of the
freaking
owl
owl.
thing.
Yeah. We find that even a few hundred demos, the model is able to learn the procedure and generalize new environments it hasn't encountered. And the team trained the robot to perform 3 tasks: manipulate a needle, lift body tissue, and suture. So manipulating a needle is one thing. I don't know. They're saying that it performs at the human level, but the human level goes way beyond manipulating a needle, lifting body tissue, and suture.
True, but could this give another pair of arms or whatever in a surgery, which in some of these seconds matter?
Sure. I mean, this is the baby steps, but again, we go back to hubris. That the idea that this robot is at parity with humans. I'm pretty sure I don't know a single medical doctor that has a practice that's going to sit there and go, yeah, it's totally on par with what I do. And if they are, then they are trying to get out of the industry and invest in this company that's spinning up. And there will be a company that spins up.
Right.
Yeah. So the funding is from the National Science Foundation Advanced Research Projects Agency, aka ARPA, which is a sister agency to DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, which is the one that footed the bill for the creation of Google, by the way. So,
Right, that minor thing that people use.
although the people that I talked to most recently are using ChatGPT to find their answers. Oddly enough,
it'll be interesting to see what the future of Google's like, but of course they've already incorporated AI.
Their own AI, yeah. So anybody who thinks that we're over the hump of AI innovation has lost their freaking mind.
We're at the baby steps.
This is just a little baby. Just wait. And it's a super intelligent baby, and that's what's really frightening.
Right, it's like it's advancing in like the equivalent of like pet years or something.
Yeah,
right?
you're like
it's just going a lot faster than humans would.
AI is 2 years old. Well, AI in its forward-facing, consumer-centric form is less than 2 years old, but it is operating like it's 200 years old.
Right, look at what it's already doing.
Yeah, absolute recall of 100% of its knowledge base, which is as much as it can consume and growing. I mean, when we get to the point where we need nuclear power plants to support the data center that's driving the channels, the channels of information into and out of AI, come on now. And no, just for the record, no, not everybody's going to be able to find some subordinate job that blah, blah, blah. Anyway, let's move on. Sound good?
Sounds good.
So the next article is over in Non Sequitur News, which is our other show, the one that just passed yesterday, today, the day after tomorrow.
Which day?
The day, I don't know. Today's a time machine show. Anyway, rural hospitals install holograph machine so doctors can appear from elsewhere. Would that make them Saint Elsewhere? That show that's now in litigation?
Oh, I mean, maybe it was prescient.
Oh, so Crescent Regional Hospital outside Dallas, Texas, has become the first in the country to offer doctor appointments with a holographic machine, allowing overworked medical specialists who often have to visit multiple medical centers in a week and sometimes even a day to see more patients. It also comes with the added bonus of turning your typically dreary telehealth visit into something a bit more lifelike and personable, though, of course, there's no beating the real thing. Yeah, that's because people can't actually see it firsthand, can't just reach out and touch it.
Well, and as a doctor, there are some things you need to physically examine the patient.
Yeah, just Be worried if your doctor says you must work out. Anyway, the article is over at futurism.com. Under another, the Futurism has these different labels for stuff. This is under Neoscope. I don't understand it, but Frank Landemore over at futurism.com put the article together. I wonder if it's like ohmTown, where they aggregate or write and publish like under dozens.
Maybe, but we haven't really. Oh, I guess so.
Where's Neoscope on this?
It's on the top right.
That whole thing? So it's all of this stuff. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, so we aggregate a bunch of news into various categories, and this is one of them. I can see the 3 dimensions of the anesthesiologist. Mispronounced that one right off the bat. Anesthesiologist's head, legs, and torso in lifelike detail. But look, you can't smack an anesthesiologist that gave the wrong dose if they are a hologram.
Well, they can't give a dose if they're a hologram.
Remote, if they're all wired up.
Oh, with like a Da Vinci robot or something?
Yeah. Like when you're in an MRI, they dose you remotely. So you're wired up in another room, you go into the MRI, they connect you to the machine, and then there's plungers that push that stuff. Yeah, it's creepy, by the way, particularly when you make connection. Anyway. So, yeah. So these are big boxes that create the impression of a hologram. And it says, I can see the 3 dimensions of the anesthesiologist's head, legs, and torso in lifelike detail, wrote journalist Mark Dent of his holographic doctor experience in an article for the Texas Monthly magazine. Only the background, a white void, reveals she's not with us. The holographic device is called a Holobox, designed by the Netherlands startup HoloConnect. With the stature of an oversized vending machine, a Holobox more or less functions as an enormous booth that can display a lifelike image of a physician or anyone else calling in.
Wow. What happens when somebody's looking at this like, oh, that's a physician, but wait, it's not actually.
Oh, yeah, really? Well, you end up transferring funds from financial accounts because people think that hologram is the CEO of...
Exactly. Yeah, we saw that in the financial industry.
Yeah. So the holographs are created using a transparent LCD screen, which is practically invisible. Practically. Housed behind a layer of anti-glare glass. As such, the images aren't being impacted or projected into 3D space, but create the illusion of 3-dimensionality. If you move to the left or right of it, it will give it away that
look like a flat
like
image
this does.
Or something.
To me, this does. It just kind of pivots a little bit towards you, that kind of a thing, but it's really just an optical illusion. So a real hologram is a full 3-dimensional representation, and you can walk around it. The rest is
right, like in Star Trek or something.
Yeah. And you see it from that perspective. So you could see if you create a hologram of a helicopter and you walk behind it, you'll see the butt end of it or the head end of it. Lay down and look up, and you can find out what gender it is. So it's also not cheap. The Holobox costs with a bold S in there. Not sure why the article has a bold S.
It really costs.
It really costs $65,000 up front on top of a $1,200 a month maintenance charge. But the hospital CEO, Raji Kumar, who pushed for the tech, argues that I'm not invested in it in any. No. They said that they pushed for the tech, arguing that the offering holographic appointments may be a way for struggling rural hospitals to retain patients and therefore make money, who may forego a medical center since it can't attract top specialists. But I don't quite get it. How does a $65,000 device with $1,200 a month appeal to a rural community who want face-to-face. They eschew technology. They
Right,
live
but
it.
there is a face-to-face piece of this. I think you skipped over that section of the article, but they have like a local nurse who's seeing them in person, and then they're getting the holograph for the, I don't think you went over that part, the
Right.
physician.
Right. But so
But I agree, like that population isn't necessarily the most
tech
into
appreciative.
technology, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're not tech centric. So while they may embrace tech for their rural living to facilitate whatever it is that they deem important, one of the things that I know from, again, from experience with rural communities is that they eschew technology when it comes to their health. So I don't, I don't know. This might be thrust upon a community and uh,
Right, it sounds good in concept. It's just a question of whether the healthcare system can use it effectively and whether the patients will be able to manage it. And some of it might even have to do with the age of the patient population. I'm sorry, but you're probably not going to get a 90-year-old patient who's never seen a hologram to deal with a doctor being a hologram. Not
yeah,
usually.
yeah, yeah. As the first hospital to deploy the technology this way, Crescent is currently using the the Holobox for pre-surgery and post-surgery consultations at a Peton. That's a doctor, anesthesiologist. Told Texas Monthly that it allows her to discharge patients sooner than if she had to wait to drive to the county, a trip she's only scheduled to make twice a week. Well, I mean, I get it, but you're not going to catch the subtle nuance, right? I don't know.
I guess it depends on whether the people will do this instead of not going in at all, right? Or if it gets them care faster, that could be a win. I mean, maybe that's the way they sell it to their patients.
Is the person on the other side, or is there a holobox on the other side that the person gets to see the patient as a hologram?
I don't think so, but that doesn't make sense. How could they, right? Because then they'd have to have it installed everywhere, unless I don't know. Does the patient come into the hospital and then the holobox is at the hospital?
Yeah, it seems like it's a one-way trip from the doctor in, but does the doctor have one of these boxes as well? Is it basically a Zoom like it implies here? It makes a mention of a Zoom, basically. Yeah, she found the patients were more attentive during her holobox calls um, than during typical telehealth visits like over Zoom. So I just I didn't catch that part of it. So yeah,
It appears that the patient goes to an actual hospital location.
right.
So then maybe that hospital location has one to receive the inbound. I don't know.
See, because this gives the implication that it's patients being seen by the doctor.
It does, but I don't know how the patients would have the technology to do that unless maybe, I don't know.
I mean, they
We don't know
obviously,
enough.
yeah, I think they go to the office and then there's something that scans them so that they can be seen on
Oh, I see.
in the
Okay.
holobox. But then there has to be a $65,000 device in both points and $1,200 a month for each device. Yeah, I think every rural hospital has one of these. All right, let's keep going. We'll do some more due diligence about that one and see how it actually plays out, because it implied that they see the doctor, but it didn't come from the doctor's perspective of seeing the patient.
Correct, which you think would be the most critical part, but you do need, there's an element of patients like trusting their doctors and all that, and so maybe that's where it's going.
Yeah, that you need a $65,000 to build rapport. So this next article is over on Reality Hacker. These rats learn to drive, and apparently they love it. So I don't know, rats like to drive fast. I've seen them. So driving represented in inter. You know what? Screw it. Nope. The deck statement even there says it. So Kelly Lambert over at Wired.com put this article together, and it says driving represented an interesting way for neuroscientists to study how rodents acquire new skills, and unexpectedly, rats had an intense motivation for their driving training.
Maybe they're like the race car drivers of the animal world.
Oh yeah, there's a new Zootopia coming. I bet you that they're going to be the race car drivers. That
Right.
would be really smart. That would be really smart. Why is this way over there? I don't quite get that. That made it really weird. Okay, well anyway, I hope all the other articles weren't like that. That would suck.
I don't think they were.
All right, well anyway, as expected, rats housed in enriched environments, complete with toys, space, and companions, learn to drive faster than those in standard cages. This finding supported the idea that the complex environments enhance neuroplasticity, which I was at a meeting yesterday having a conversation, and I said that my brain just will not pick up languages anymore. And the person said, well, based on the conversations in the meeting, you certainly represent as having the neuroplasticity. That was used in a sentence with me. And I'm
Wow.
like, that is like a, I don't know how many point word in Scrabble. Neuroplasticity. You win the game if
We're
you
in
drop
Jeopardy.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. And I said, well, thanks for the benefit of the doubt, but no, I'm dumb as a rock. So, as expected, rats housed in these enriched environments did better. The brain's ability to change across the lifespan in response to environmental demands. So, after they published their research, the story of driving rats went viral in the media. The project continues in the lab with new, improved rat-operated vehicles, or ROVs.
This
Yeah.
is really neat.
Our ROVs are remotely operated vehicles. Now it's rat-operated vehicles.
Okay.
Designed by robotics professor John McManus and his students. These upgraded electrical ROVs. What were they, gas-powered before? Were they driving Lamborghinis?
Did they make them go fill up their cars?
Oh, fast swap batteries. Anyway, featuring rat-proof wiring, indestructible tires, and ergonomic driving levers, are akin to a rodent version of Tesla's Cybertruck. Oh, really? So you get them wet and they get stuck?
Yeah.
When you
Watch out
drive,
for car wash mode.
when you drive them in the snow, the lights get blocked by snow, so they're not effective anymore. You slam the door and all the interior falls off into the driver's compartment or passenger's compartment. How many other things? Oh, you can't. Well, we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that in 4-Wheel Tech later. That's another one of our shows, 4-Wheel Tech, by the way. So although cars are made for rats are far from anything that they would encounter in the real world, we believe that driving represented an interesting way to study how rodents acquire new skills. Unexpectedly, we found that the rats had an intense motivation for driving training, often jumping into the car and revving the lever engine. The lever engine? The engine lever.
Yeah, they used a wire that would act like a gas pedal.
Right. The lever engine? Is that how you would say that? Revving the engine lever, I would say, before their vehicle hit the road. So why was that? I don't know. Rats also taught them something profound one morning during the pandemic. It was summer of 2020, a period marked by emotional isolation for almost everyone on the planet, even laboratory rats. When they walked into the lab, they noticed something unusual. The 3 driving trained rats eagerly ran to the side of the cage, jumping like dogs when asked if they want to take a walk. So they're like, oh, I want to drive. Come on.
Oh, it's time to drive. Here
So-
are my Fruit Loops.
That's what they were treating them
That
with?
was what, yes.
That's funny. So building on foundational learning approaches such as operant conditioning, which reinforces targeted behavior through strategic incentives, we train the rats step by step in the driver's ed programs. So they basically were taught how to do all of these things, and now they eagerly do it because they wanted Fruit Loops.
That's right. I think they only got like a single Fruit Loop when they drove the car. Oh my goodness.
These are omnidirectional tires too.
Oh, wow.
These aren't just going forward and backward and steering left and right so that you turn wheels. These are actually omnidirectional.
Fascinating. I wonder if they started figuring out how to steer like the most efficient path or whatever.
Yeah,
or
like pivot in place
or if
sideways.
they wanted to drive around. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So this became a wait for it research program. We dubbed this new line of study uppers, unpredictable positive experience responses, where rats were trained to wait for rewards. In contrast, control rats received their rewards immediately. After about a month of training, we exposed the rats to different tests to determine how waiting for positive experiences affects how they learn and behave. We're currently peering into the brains to map the neural footprint of extended positive experiences. This does not bode well for humans. That current climate is one of those things where you're not going to get paid unless you complete 80 hours in a work period.
Right.
Yeah. So it says it wasn't just the effects of anticipation on rat behavior that caught our attention. One day, a student noticed something strange. One of the rats in the group, trained to expect positive experiences, had its tail straight up with a crook in the end, resembling the handle of an old-fashioned umbrella. They'd never seen this in their decades of working with rats. Reviewing the video footage, we found that the rats trained to anticipate positive experiences were more likely to hold their tails high than untrained rats. But why did they do that? They posted a picture of the behavior on social media. Fellow neuroscientists identified it as a gentler form of what's called a straub tail, typically seen in rats given the opioid morphine. The S-shaped curl.
So they were basically having a positive, biochemical
reaction
effect.
Yeah, like Pavlov, they were already happy because they were about to get trained on whatever is going on. Yeah, so the straub tail behavior subsides. When the dopamine is blocked, the straub tail behavior subsides. So they basically got a dopamine rush, just like so many internet users. You know what? We'll let you read the rest of this. Let's go on to the next and our last one for today's Reality Hacker. We've got 2 more shows and then we got to reset. We'll probably be doing this until 10. So, a robot identifies plants by touching their leaves, but I'm sure the robot asks first. Researchers in China have developed a robot that identifies different plant species at various stages of growth by touching their leaves with an electrode. The robot can measure properties such as surface texture and water content that cannot be determined using existing visual approaches. Cell Press is where this article is sourced from, but it's published at phys.org. I wouldn't be able to tell you if this plant's healthy or not.
A lot of people couldn't do this even by touch, so this is interesting that the robots can do this.
I know people that are like, oh my god, my plant, and they'll sit there and wash each leaf and make sure that it's shiny, because it breathes better if it doesn't have dirt and debris on it. So according to the study published November 13th in the journal Device, the robot identified 10 different plant species with an average accuracy of 97.7% and identified 10 different plant species. Oh, okay, so there's a lot of the plants, but they identified the 10. And identified leaves of the flowering Bauhinia plant with 100% accuracy at various growth stages.
So that's more complex than just going, oh, this is this type of plant.
Yeah, it's this type of plant at this stage.
At 3 months or whatever.
So I wonder if it identified it at the stage and said it's at 3 months or whatever. Or if it just said, they said, this plant's at 3 months. What is it? And so it identified it as the Bauhinia. I see,
which are very different.
Yeah. So eventually, large-scale farmers and agricultural researchers could use the robot to monitor the health and growth of crops and to make tailored decisions. I'm just going to stop here because I think you could do this same thing with external sensors simply by looking down at them en masse and going, it's kind of like looking through the canopy and seeing the boundaries of the cities, Mayan cities, right? You can actually look down with a sensor and go, this plant has leaves this big, it's this color, it's giving off this much moisture, or it looks to have this much moisture.
Right, but it's saying these cannot be determined using visual approaches, but maybe with that specific technology it could.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're calling visual nothing more than a camera pointing down. So rather than making physical contact with a plant, existing devices capture more limited information using visual approaches, which are vulnerable to factors such as lighting condition, changes in the weather, or background interference. To overcome these, they developed a robot that touches. This is just, it's so high friction because it would have to walk around, touch.
Well, yeah, it can't be used in a broad scale, right?
Yeah.
But it's pretty amazing the degree of nuance involved.
Yeah, and I think that this would be great as an external sensor for somebody. Like you could actually use this on humans as a touch point. You know, you just walk by it and it can tap you and identify a person, perhaps, you know, just off of whatever. Perhaps, I don't know. It's an amazing piece of sensor technology, but you know, they say eventually large-scale farmers and agricultural researchers could use the robot to monitor the health and growth of crops and to make tailored decisions about how much water and fertilizer to give the plants and how to approach pest control. But you wouldn't know what the pest is. You might be able to tell.
Right, unless you have access to a database and once you figure out the plant or whatever.
And that would be
but it's
visual.
not going to be based on observations necessarily. Now, obviously, if you did see something crawling on the plant, okay, then you would, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. And you wouldn't be able to tell that just from moisture. So I think that it's really neat, but it's a problem. It's a solution looking for a problem. And the problem I don't think really exists. It says, while the robot shows vast and unexpected potential applications in fields ranging from precision agriculture to ecological studies to plant disease detection, it has several weaknesses that have yet to be addressed, says Song. And they say, for example, the device is not yet versatile enough to consistently identify types of plants with complicated structures such as burrs and needle-like leaves. This could be remedied by improving the design of the robot's electrode. Yeah, I don't know. All right, but that's it. I think that we're gonna use this bot to tap us back into the front page of Reality Hacker at ohmtown.com, and we're gonna reset. So we're gonna shut down the stream and rejigger everything, and we'll be back for Wanted, which is all about gadgets and gear. So I'm Mayor Watt signing off, and the sentient AI will do the same.
Bye-bye, hometown citizens. Thanks for joining us for Reality Hackers. Stay tuned for other shows.
Bye-bye. And I don't know if I want a robot touching me.